The scanner had measured 37,000 species across 200 years. It had categorized warriors and weaklings, predators and prey. It had never failed. Not once. Until today, Danny Reeves walked through the docking gate of Station Umbra 7 with a yawn and a stretch. His cargo ship sat behind him, packed with medical supplies for a colony that had been cut off from major trade routes. It was a simple job: deliver the goods, collect the payment, move on to the next haul. The station looked like every other he had visited in this sector. Gray walls, humming lights, and aliens of all shapes shuffling through security checkpoints. Danny joined the line and waited his turn. An insect-like creature ahead of him passed through a large archway that glowed blue. The display beside it showed numbers and words Danny could not read. "Next," called a tired voice. Danny stepped forward. The archway hummed as he walked through it. Then it stopped humming. The blue light turned yellow, then orange, then deep red. Alarms began to scream. Danny froze. Did I do something wrong? The display beside the archway flickered rapidly. Numbers scrolled across it, climbing higher and higher until they simply vanished. A single word appeared in Galactic Common that Danny could actually read: Unmeasurable. The security officer behind the desk was a Veloxi. She stood about 4 feet tall, with a delicate body covered in shimmering plates. Her large eyes went wide as she stared at the display, then at Danny, then back at the display. "What does that mean?" Danny asked. The Veloxi did not answer. She slammed her hand on a panel and spoke rapidly into a communication device. Within seconds, the entire terminal erupted into chaos. Aliens ran. They pushed past each other, knocked over cargo containers, and screamed in languages Danny had never heard. Security drones descended from the ceiling and surrounded him with weapons pointed at his chest. Armored guards in heavy suits took positions behind barriers. Danny raised his hand slowly. "Hey, okay, calm down. I'm just a cargo hauler. I'm not here to cause trouble." No one listened. A voice boomed over the speakers in Galactic Common. "Attention, all personnel. Death World entity detected. Classification unmeasurable. Evacuate sections 12 through 15 immediately." "Death World?" Danny muttered. "What's a Death World?" The Veloxi officer approached him with shaking legs. She held a scanning device in her trembling hands and pointed it at Danny from a safe distance. The device beeped and displayed more information that made her face go pale. "Species confirmed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Human. Origin planet. Earth. Death World category, extreme." "Earth isn't that bad," Danny said. "I mean, we have some rough weather, but do not move," the officer interrupted. "Do not speak. Do not make any sudden gestures." Danny stood perfectly still. He had dealt with customs officers before, but never like this. Usually they were bored and annoyed. This one looked like she was staring at a monster. More officials arrived. They wore protective suits and carried equipment Danny did not recognize. They scanned him from every angle, took samples of the air around him, and had whispered conversations that he could not hear. Finally, a taller Veloxi arrived. Her uniform had more decorations, suggesting rank. She studied Danny with a mixture of fear and fascination. "I'm Supervisor Prilla," she said. "You will come with us." "Am I under arrest?" Danny asked. "You are being contained for the safety of this station." "Contained? Look, I haven't done anything. I just walked through your scanner." "Exactly." Prilla gestured to the guards. "The scanner measures threat potential, physical capability, healing rate, endurance, aggression markers. It ranks every species on a scale from 1 to 100. The highest recorded score before today was 73, held by the Harith warrior caste." Danny nodded slowly. "And what did I score?" Prilla's antennae twitched. "The scanner could not calculate your score. Every time it tried, the number exceeded its maximum parameters. It defaulted to the only warning reserved for extinction-level threats." She paused. "You triggered a red warning. Human. Your kind has been classified as unmeasurable." They led Danny to a containment cell deep in the station's secure wing. The walls were thick metal, the door sealed with multiple locks. A transparent panel allowed observation from outside. Danny sat on the bench inside and watched aliens hurry past the window. Every single one of them avoided looking at him. When he stood up and approached the glass, they scattered like frightened birds. He sighed and sat back down. I just wanted to deliver some medicine, he said to himself. Outside, Supervisor Prillo watched him through a monitoring screen. The human sat calmly, showing no signs of stress or aggression. That was somehow more terrifying than if he had raged against the walls. Contact the Coalition Science Division, Prillo ordered. Tell them we have a live human in custody. Tell them. She struggled to find the right words. Tell them the legends are true. The scanner had measured 37,000 species. It had never failed to assign a number, until a creature from a death world called Earth walked through and broke every scale they had. Danny Reeves leaned against the cold wall and closed his eyes. His cargo was going to spoil if they did not let him out soon. He hoped someone would explain what was happening. He hoped someone would just talk to him. But on the other side of that glass, no one dared to get close enough to try. Dr. Noor had spent 40 years studying creatures that should not exist. Survivors from worlds with crushing gravity. Predators that breathed poison. Life forms that thrived in radiation. But the file on her screen made all of them seem ordinary. The Quillian scientist sat at her laboratory aboard station Umbra 7, silver quills rising along her spine as she read. Her species resembled what humans might call a porcupine, though she would never know that comparison. All she knew was that the data in front of her described the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. And one of them was sitting in a cell 3 floors below. Earth, she whispered, scrolling through the planetary report. Third planet from a yellow star. Gravity, 1.0 standard. Atmosphere, 21% oxygen. That alone was alarming. Oxygen was a corrosive gas that most species avoided. High oxygen environments promoted aggressive cellular activity, rapid healing, and intense metabolic rates. Earth had one of the highest oxygen concentrations ever recorded on a habitable world. But the atmosphere was only the beginning. The planet experienced extreme temperature shifts. Regions near its poles dropped to negative 50 degrees. Regions near its equator exceeded 50 degrees. Humans lived in both. They walked through blizzards and crossed deserts. They adapted to every climate their world could throw at them. Doctor Nora opened the geological file and felt her quills stand fully upright. Earth's surface was constantly moving. Massive plates of rock shifted and collided, creating earthquakes that leveled cities and volcanoes that buried entire regions in fire. The planet was trying to kill everything on it, and somehow life had not only survived, but thrived. Evolutionary history, she muttered, opening another file. This cannot be accurate. Earth had experienced 5 mass extinction events. 5 times, the majority of life on the planet had been wiped out. And 5 times, life had crawled back from the edge of oblivion and started again. The creatures that survived were tough, adaptable, and ruthlessly efficient. Humans were the end result of billions of years of that process. Doctor Nora found the biological assessment and began reading aloud to herself. Humans are persistence predators. They do not rely on speed or strength to catch prey. Instead, they chase their targets across vast distances until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Humans can maintain pursuit for hours without rest. She paused and let that sink in. Most predators attacked quickly. They ambushed, they struck, and they either succeeded or gave up. Humans did not give up. They followed. They tracked. They waited. And eventually, their target simply could not run anymore. The file continued. Human skeletal structure is dense and resistant to fracture. Human musculature can generate significant force when necessary. Human cardiovascular systems can operate efficiently under sustained stress. Human immune systems are highly aggressive and can combat infections that would kill other species within hours. Dr. Noor switched to the toxicology report and nearly dropped her tablet. Humans regularly consume capsaicin, a chemical weapon used to deter predators. They consume ethanol, a cellular poison, for recreation. They consume caffeine, a stimulant that would cause cardiac arrest in most species, on a daily basis. They poison themselves for fun. and they survived. A chime at her door made her jump. Supervisor Prilla entered, her antennae flat against her head in a display of anxiety. Have you completed your analysis? Prilla asked. I have barely started, Dr. Noor replied. This species is remarkable. And by remarkable, I mean terrifying. The scanner showed unmeasurable. Can you explain why? Dr. Noor set down her tablet. The scanner calculates threat by combining multiple factors: strength, speed, endurance, healing rate, and aggression potential. Most species score high in one or two categories, but low in others. A Harith warrior is strong, but has limited endurance. A Velix hunter is fast, but fragile. And humans score moderate to high in every single category simultaneously. The scanner's algorithm multiplies these factors together to generate a final rating. When tried to process a species that excelled across all metrics, the calculation exceeded maximum parameters. Dr. Noor's quills trembled. The scanner did not malfunction. It simply encountered something it was never designed to measure. Prilla moved closer to the screen. You said they score moderate in individual categories. That does not sound unmeasurable. Individually, no. But combined, Dr. Noor pulled up a comparison chart. A human can outrun a Harith over long distances. A human can outlift a Quillian. A human can survive temperatures that would kill a Veloxy. A human can heal from wounds that would be fatal to most species. And they can do all of these things in sequence, without rest, while consuming poison for breakfast. The supervisor was silent for a long moment. I need to interview the specimen, Dr. Noor said. I need to verify these files with direct observation. Is that safe? Probably not, but someone must do it. Dr. Noor gathered her equipment and walked toward the containment level. Her quills stayed rigid the entire journey. When she reached the cell, she found the human sitting calmly on a bench, looking bored. Hello, the human said through the transparent wall. Are you here to tell me what's going on? Dr. Noor activated her recording device. I'm Dr. Noor. I study organisms from extreme environments. I have some questions for you. Sure, the human shrugged. But can someone check on my cargo? I have medicine that needs to stay cold. Medicine? This apex predator, this living weapon forged by a death world, was worried about delivering medicine to strangers. The doctor Noor realized the files had missed something important. They described what humans could do. They never explained what humans chose to do. That might be the most important question of all. Commander Solus had killed 17 enemies in personal combat. He stood 7 feet tall, covered in thick green scales that could stop a blade. His claws had torn through armor. His teeth had crushed bone. Among the Harith, he was considered a perfect warrior. When they told him a small, soft mammal had broken the strength scanner, he laughed. Show me, he demanded. Bring this human to the testing grounds. Let me see what the fuss is about. The request was granted. 2 hours later, Commander Solus stood in the station's physical assessment facility with his arms crossed over his massive chest. Supervisor Prilla watched nervously from behind a safety barrier. Dr. Noor held her tablet, ready to record every detail. Danny Reeves walked into the room and looked around. Nice gym, he said. So what do you want me to do? Solus studied the creature before him. The human was shorter than most Harith children. His skin looked thin and fragile. His body had no armor, no claws, no visible weapons. This was supposed to be dangerous? The endurance track, Solus said, pointing to a circular path that lined the room. Run until you cannot run anymore. Okay. Danny shrugged and started jogging. Solus watched with mild interest. The human's pace was slow compared to Harith sprinters. Nothing impressive there. He turned to Prilla with a smug expression. This is your extinction-level threat. Wait, Prilla said quietly. 0.5 minutes passed. Danny kept jogging. His pace never changed. 10 minutes. 15. 20. The human showed no signs of slowing down. His breathing was steady. His stride remained constant. He looked almost bored. 30 minutes. Solus felt the first hint of unease. Harith warriors were strong, but they were not built for long chases. They attacked in explosive bursts, overwhelming prey with power. Sustained running drained them quickly. 45 minutes. Dr. Noor checked her readings. Heart rate elevated but stable. Oxygen consumption efficient. Body temperature regulated through perspiration. Through what? Solus asked. Perspiration. Humans release fluid through their skin to cool themselves. It allows them to maintain activity levels that would cause overheating in most species. Solus watched the human run. Sweat glistened on Danny's skin, but his legs never faltered. He was not getting tired. He was settling into a rhythm. 1 hour passed. Danny finally slowed to a stop and walked over to the observers. Are we done? I can keep going if you want, but I'm getting kind of hungry. Solus stared at him. You ran for 1 hour. At that pace. And you are only hungry. Yeah. Danny wiped his forehead. Back home. I used to run longer than that for training. Search and rescue work, you know? Sometimes you have to cover a lot of ground to find someone. The grip test was next. Danny took hold of a pressure gauge and squeezed gently. The number was respectable, but nothing extraordinary. Squeeze harder, Solus ordered. I don't want to break it. Break it. Danny applied real force. The gauge cracked. The display flickered, showed a number far beyond expected range, and then died completely. Solus felt his scales tighten. The temperature trials followed. They placed Danny in a chamber and raised the temperature to levels that would cause most species to collapse. Danny sweated heavily, but remained standing. He complained about the heat, but did not fall. They lowered the temperature to freezing. Danny shivered and wrapped his arms around himself, but his body kept functioning. His movement slowed, but never stopped. Humans work in environments like this on Earth, Dr. Noor explained. They have settlements in frozen regions and desert regions. Their bodies adapt to both extremes. Finally, Solus approached Danny directly. The Harith commander towered over the human, trying to intimidate him with sheer size. Danny looked up at him without fear. You're pretty tall. Must be hard to find clothes that fit. Solus blinked. You are not afraid of me. Should I be? I am the highest-rated warrior on this station. Before you arrived, my species held the record for the most dangerous classification on the strength scanner. Danny nodded slowly. That's cool. So you're like a soldier? I'm a killer. I have ended lives with these hands. Solus raised his clawed fingers. And yet you stand before me, making jokes about my clothing. I don't want to fight you, Danny said simply. I'm just a cargo hauler. I deliver things. That's my job. If you want to be the most dangerous guy on the station, that's fine with me. I just want to drop off my medicine and get paid. Solus stared at the human for a long moment. Then he turned to Prilla and Dr. Noor. The files are accurate, he said quietly. This creature could survive conditions that would kill my finest warriors. He ran longer than any of us could chase. He broke your equipment without trying. Solus paused, and he does not even consider himself dangerous. That is the problem, Dr. Noor replied. Humans do not see themselves as predators. They see themselves as helpful, cooperative, kind. Solus watched Danny wave politely at a passing technician who fled in terror. A predator that does not know it is a predator, Solus murmured. That might be the most dangerous thing of all. He understood now why the scanner had shown red. It was not because humans were aggressive. It was because they were capable of anything and chose to be gentle. What would happen if they ever stopped choosing? Mira had always been told that curiosity killed Veloxy. Her elders said it constantly. Stay safe. Stay hidden. Never approach anything that might be dangerous. It was good advice for a species made of thin plates and hollow bones. But when she saw the human walking toward the cargo bay, curiosity won. I'm coming with you, she announced. Danny stopped and looked down at the young Veloxy. She barely reached his chest. Her large eyes reflected the corridor lights. Her antennae pointed straight at him with obvious interest. To the colony, Danny asked. It's a long trip, and everyone seems to think I'm dangerous. I know. Mira lifted her chin. I want to see why. Supervisor Prilla had given permission for Danny to finally deliver his cargo. The medical supplies were desperately needed at a Veloxy settlement that had been struck by disease. But no one wanted to travel alone with a human. No one except Mira. They loaded the last crates into Danny's ship and departed. The journey would take several hours through empty space. Plenty of time to talk. Your planet. Mira said, settling into the co-pilot seat. Tell me about it. Danny smiled. It was the first time anyone on this station had asked him a question out of interest rather than fear. Earth is nice, he said. We have big oceans, mountains, forests, lots of different climates, depending on where you live. The files say your planet experiences violent geological activity. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Yeah, those happen. You learn to build for them, or you move somewhere safer. Myra's antennae twitched. You speak so casually about destruction. I guess when you grow up with it, you stop thinking about it as strange. Danny adjusted their course and leaned back. Earth can be dangerous, but it's home. I've never really thought of it as a death world. What did you do there? Before you became a cargo hauler? Search and rescue. I worked in Alaska, which is a cold region in the north. Lots of mountains, lots of snow. People would get lost or hurt, and my team would go find them. Mira processed this. You search for injured people? In hostile terrain, that's the job. Sometimes we had to dig through avalanches. Sometimes we had to climb down cliffs. Once I dove into a frozen lake to pull out a guy who fell through the ice. Danny shrugged like this was ordinary. Cold water hurts, but you can survive it if you move fast. The young Veloxi stared at him. Her species avoided water entirely. The idea of diving into a frozen lake was unthinkable. Why, she asked. Why risk yourself for strangers? Danny thought about it for a moment. Because they needed help, and I could help. That's really all there is to it. They traveled in silence for a while. Mira watched the stars slide past the viewport and tried to understand this creature. He came from a world that tried to kill everything on it. He was classified as an extinction-level threat, and he had spent his life saving people from his dangerous planet. Do all humans think like you? She finally asked. Mostly. We look out for each other. It's kind of built into us. Danny smiled again. We're social animals. We survive because we work together, not because we were the strongest or the fastest. But the scanner said you were strong, and fast, and durable. Compared to other species, maybe, but on Earth, we're pretty average. There are animals bigger than us, faster than us, with sharper claws and stronger jaws. We survive by being clever and stubborn. Stubborn. We don't give up. If something tries to kill us, we figure out how to beat it. If something seems impossible, we try anyway. Danny looked out at the stars. I think that's the real human superpower. Not strength or speed, just refusing to quit. The colony appeared on their sensors. It was a small settlement on a rocky moon, home to a few hundred Veloxi who had been cut off from major supply routes. The disease that struck them was treatable, but they had no medicine. Danny's cargo would save lives. They landed on a dusty pad outside the main habitat. When the ramp lowered, a crowd of Veloxi had gathered to receive the supplies. They froze when they saw Danny step out. It's okay, Mira called out. He's here to help. The colonists did not move. They had received the warnings about humans. They knew what the scanner had shown, and now one was walking toward them. Danny looked at the frightened faces and made a decision. He knelt down, making himself smaller, less threatening. He spoke softly. I brought medicine. Where you're sick. An older Veloxi stepped forward hesitantly. The medical building. He sighed. Show me. I'll help unload. Danny spent the next several hours carrying crates, asking questions, and learning about the colony. The Veloxi watched him with wide eyes as he lifted containers that would have taken 3 of them to move. But he was gentle with everything he touched. He asked about their families, their work, their hopes for the future. By midnight, the cargo was distributed. Danny sat on a bench outside the medical building, exhausted but satisfied. Sick colonists were already receiving treatment. Mira sat beside him. They are starting to trust you, she said. Good. Danny yawned. That's all I wanted. A young Veloxi child approached them shyly. She held out a small fruit, an offering. Danny accepted it with a warm smile and thanked her. The child ran back to her mother, chattering excitedly about the friendly giant from the death world. Mira realized something important. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they made you care about them. And once you cared, you would follow them anywhere. The pirate ship dropped out of hyperspace like a shark smelling blood. Its name was the Broken Fong, and its crew had earned that name many times over. Captain Vrel stood on his bridge and studied the colony below. Keth pirates like him made their living by taking from the weak. A sick Veloxy settlement with no defenses and no backup was exactly what he had been searching for. Scanners show minimal resistance, his second officer reported. Standard civilian population. No military presence. Perfect. Vrel clicked his mandibles together. Land the assault team. Take everything valuable. If they resist, make examples. The broken Fong descended toward the colony. Danny heard the warning sirens before he saw the ship. He had been helping in a medical building when the alarm cut through the quiet night. Colonists began to panic. Raiders, an elder shouted. Everyone hide. But there was nowhere to hide. The settlement was small and open. The Veloxy had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back. They scattered like insects as the pirate ship landed outside the main gate. Danny ran toward the entrance. Mira grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "You have to hide. How many colonists are here?" 300. Maybe more with the sick ones. Can they fight? Mira stared at him. "We are Veloxy. We are not warriors. We are not like you." Danny nodded slowly. Something changed in his eyes. The friendly cargo hauler was gone. In his place stood something else entirely. Something ancient. Something that had chased prey across endless plains for millions of years. "Stay inside," he said quietly. "Keep everyone calm. I'll handle this." "Handle what?" "There's an entire pirate crew out there." "I know." Danny walked toward the gate. The Keth raiding party had already broken through the outer barrier. There were 12 of them, tall and angular with sharp limbs and clicking mandibles. They carried weapons and wore light armor. They expected no resistance. What they found instead was a human standing alone in the middle of the road. "Stop," Danny said. The raiders paused. Their leader, a scarred Keth named Drax, stepped forward with a cruel laugh. "What is this? A single alien thinks it can challenge us. I'm not challenging anyone. I'm telling you to leave." Drax raised his weapon. "Move aside, little creature, or I'll cut you down and step over your corpse." Danny did not move. "Last chance," he said. His voice was calm, but something in his tone made several raiders hesitate. "Turn around. Get back on your ship. Don't come back." Drax lunged. His blade arced toward Danny's throat. Danny moved. Not fast like a Keth sprint, but smooth and controlled. He sidestepped the attack, grabbed Drax's arm, and twisted. The raider's limb bent at an angle it was not designed for. Drax screamed and dropped. The other raiders attacked. Danny did not rage. He did not panic. He moved through them like water through stones. Every strike was efficient. Every motion served a purpose. He took hits and ignored them. A blade cut his arm, and he kept fighting. A blow struck his side, and he answered with a punch that cracked armor. The Keth were fast, but they tired quickly. Danny did not tire. His heart pounded with ancient rhythm, the beat of a persistent predator who had chased prey across continents. He was designed for exactly this moment. Point one by one. The raiders fell or fled. Point three of them ran for their ship. Danny chased them. His legs burned, but he refused to stop. The raiders looked back and saw him coming, relentless, unstoppable. They ran harder, but their bodies were not built for distance. They stumbled. They slowed. Danny caught up. When the dust settled, the entire raiding party was either unconscious or begging for mercy. Danny stood in the middle of them, breathing hard, blood dripping from his wounds. His eyes were fixed on the pirate ship. The remaining crew inside saw what had happened. They saw their comrades broken on the ground. They saw the humans still standing. The broken Fong's engines roared to life, and the ship lifted off without its assault team. Danny watched it flee into the sky. "Yeah," he muttered. "That's what I thought." Behind him, the colonists had emerged from hiding. They stared at the scene with expressions that mixed terror and awe. Veloxy children peeked from behind their parents. Elders who had lived through many hardships stood speechless. Mira ran to Danny's side. "You're injured." I'm fine." Danny looked down at his wounds. "Cuts heal. The colonists are safe. That's what matters. You fought 12 raiders. Alone. They were threatening innocent people." Danny's voice carried no pride, only simple fact. I couldn't let that happen. The colony's leader approached slowly. She was old for a Veloxi, her plates dulled with age. She had seen many things in her life, but she had never seen anything like this. Why? She asked. Why would you risk your life for us? We are strangers. We are not your species. We are not your people. Danny looked at the frightened colonists, the sick in their beds, the children clutching their parents. He thought about Alaska, about diving into frozen lakes, about digging through avalanches for hours to find one survivor. You needed help, he said simply, and I could help. The old Veloxi studied him for a long moment. Then she did something no Veloxi had ever done to a human before. She reached out and touched his hand. Thank you, she whispered. Guardian. Danny did not know what the word meant, but the way she said it made him feel like he had finally found a home among the stars. News traveled fast across the Coalition network. By the time rescue ships reached the Veloxi colony, half the galaxy had heard the story. A human had defeated an entire pirate crew with his bare hands. He had chased them until they surrendered, and he had done it all to protect aliens he had never met before. The footage from colony security cameras spread everywhere. Everyone watched the same scene. A small, soft creature standing alone against armed raiders. Everyone saw him refuse to fall. Everyone saw him win. Station Umbra 7 erupted into chaos when Danny returned. Commander Solus was the first to greet him at the docking bay. The massive Harith warrior approached Danny and performed something no one expected. He saluted. You honored the warrior code, Solus said. You protected those who could not protect themselves. Among my people, this makes you a brother in arms. Danny looked uncomfortable. I just did what needed to be done. Exactly. Solus placed a heavy hand on Danny's shoulder. That is why you are remarkable. Supervisor Prilla rushed forward with a medical team. They fussed over Danny's wounds, which had already begun to heal. One medic stared at the closing cuts with naked disbelief. Your body is repairing itself, she said. The tissue is regenerating in real time. Wounds heal fast, Danny replied. It's normal. Dr. Noor arrived with her tablet clutched to her chest. She had been analyzing the combat footage for hours. The data confirmed everything she had suspected but never seen proven. You entered a sustained combat state for over 20 minutes, she reported. Your endurance, pain tolerance, and aggression response all match theoretical models for a Death World apex predator. But your targeting remained precise. You disabled opponents without killing them. You showed restraint even in battle. Danny shrugged. I didn't want to kill anyone. I just wanted them to stop. The station council called an emergency session that evening. Representatives from multiple species filled the chamber, all of them wanting to discuss the same topic. What to do about humans? Danny sat in the center of the room, feeling deeply uncomfortable. He had never asked for this attention. He was just a cargo hauler who had stumbled into a bad situation. The human classification must change, Commander Solus declared. Marking them as unmeasurable threats is inaccurate. They are not threats to the Coalition. They are threats to enemies of the Coalition. You want us to trust a species that broke our scanner? A nervous delegate asked. The scanner measured capability, Dr. Noor interjected. It never measured intent. Humans have extraordinary physical abilities, yes, but they choose to use those abilities for protection, not conquest. Supervisor Prilla stood up. I was among the first to see this human arrive. I was terrified. I ordered evacuation procedures. But now I have seen what he actually does with his strength. He delivered medicine. He helped the sick. He fought raiders to defend strangers. She turned to Danny. What do you want? If you could ask the Coalition for anything, what would it be? Danny thought about it for a moment. Every eye in the chamber watched him. I'd like to finish my trade route, he said finally. Maybe pick up some new contracts. Keep doing my job. That's it? The nervous delegate asked. You single-handedly defeated a pirate crew and saved a colony. You could ask for rewards, recognition, political power. And you want to haul cargo. It's honest work. Danny smiled. I'm good at it, and it lets me help people along the way. The council debated for several more hours. Danny waited patiently. He answered questions when asked. He explained his world, his species, his personal history. He talked about search and rescue, about cold lakes and mountain avalanches, about the simple satisfaction of helping someone in need. Finally, they reached a decision. The strength scanner would be updated. When humans passed through, it would no longer show red warnings or unmeasurable alerts. Instead, it would display a new classification created specifically for humanity. Species, human. Classification, guardian. Approach with respect. Danny accepted the news quietly. He thanked the council, collected his payment for the medical delivery, and returned to his ship. He had other jobs waiting, other places to go. Mira found him in the cargo bay before departure. "You changed things," she said. "The whole galaxy is talking about what you did. I hope they're saying good things. They're saying that humans are terrifying." Mira smiled. "But they're also saying that humans are kind, that you protect people, that you never give up on anyone." Danny loaded the last crate and sealed the hold. "That sounds about right. Will you come back this way again?" "Probably. There's good work out here. People who need supplies, colonies that need support." He paused and looked at the young Veloxi. "Maybe I'll see you around. Maybe you will." Danny's ship departed Station Umbra 7 and vanished into the Stars Point 6 months later. Mira had transferred to a new posting at a frontier station. She was working the security checkpoint when a human cargo ship requested docking clearance. The scanner activated as the pilot walked through. Species, human. Classification, guardian. Approach with respect. Aliens in the terminal watched nervously. Some remembered the old warnings. Some had heard the stories. But when the human smiled and waved, something shifted in the air. A young alien child broke free from his mother and ran toward the human with excited chittering. Instead of fleeing, the human knelt down and said hello. Mira watched the scene and felt something warm spread through her chest. The galaxy had feared humanity for good reason. They were persistent. They were adaptable. They were forged by a world that tried constantly to kill them. But they were also gentle, protective, kind. And now, finally, the galaxy was beginning to understand.